All right, guys, welcome back to Within Tolerance. This is episode 57, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Or at least I know I did. I had a very eventful day, and it's been 2 weeks since I've talked to Dylan, so we've got all sorts of stuff to talk about, and then we've got some very, very interesting questions. I haven't really read through all of them, but a couple of these are already making me laugh, so this is going to get interesting. But yeah, so Dylan, what's up with you?
Things are great. I am finally caught up. Like I am all
Lucky.
it feels so good. I mean, I've been complaining for what, 2 months? I mean, good complaining, I guess, because I am busy and like I'm still very busy, but everything, like all of the orders that were backlogged are now cleared. It's all fresh orders. I'm not behind on anything. It feels fantastic. I just Brad dropped off the last parts this morning. I worked on them last night, and like it's just such a big weight off my chest. I feel so good. And like we're finally having some time to tackle some Proteum projects, which is great. I bought the material, or the material showed up today for our tool setter riser. I
Yes.
showed that on the my stories a few nights ago. All that's designed and ready to go. And then I've got it probably either this week, probably this weekend. I'm gonna put everything together for the TSC, and then I buy the last remaining part and then get that going because I've got to get rolling on that titanium job.
Cool.
So yeah, it's been good. Like the shop's relatively clean. Like all of our horizontal space is more or less open again. Finally, there's not like a million little, you know, parts or half finished parts all around, which is it feels so good.
Yeah, I bet.
I do have a story wrap up. So one of the remaining parts that like, I mean, it was like months late, but thankfully it was kind of just like an on the shelf part for this company. Like they didn't need any of them. Otherwise they would have told me, and I would have, got them a few of them that I already had already done. But it was those electronic enclosure faceplates that like I talked about, I don't know, 2 months ago or a month ago, that needed the downcut end mills that I eventually bought. That didn't solve the problem. So it turns out, and I posted a meme on my stories a day or two ago. So the way these kind of look like big long rectangles, and they're about 60 thou thick, and they're like, I don't know, 6 inches by an inch and a half or something like that.
Okay.
And they just get a bunch of through pockets cut in them for electrical connectors. Like it's an off the shelf electrical housing box that this company then puts their board in and tells me where to cut the pockets for, Ethernet connectors and power and all that stuff. And the first time we made them, we had zero issues with them. We made 60 or 70 sets of them maybe a year and a half ago. Um, and this time, as I said, they were bowing like crazy. And I thought, I think it was a really good lesson in like not going down a rabbit hole when you really don't know what the cause is. Cause like my first thought, and like for some reason I got stuck on the thought of like, oh, it's material condition. Like these were cut differently at the factory in China, and now it's bowing because of material condition. Well, it turns out what it was is that like the way I hold these down is that there's four pre-drilled and countersunk holes in the corners that I use to locate it in X and Y and hold it down. Well, these holes were between 5 and 10 thou out of place this time,
Oh, geez.
both from the edges, which is where my technically my datums were, and from each other. So they were further out from each other than they were on the model and on my fixture. So when I would put all four screws in, they would actually force the part into a warped state. And the reason that it got worse after I cut the pockets is that there was less material there, and so it flexed even more. And I never noticed this because 5 or 10 thou, like I wasn't going around measuring. I think I had what 200 of these to do, 200 individual pieces, so I wasn't going around measuring them. Like I just
Yeah.
assumed that they were like the last ones. Obviously assume right there. That's my
Yeah.
killer word. But yeah, so I finally was just like, something's not right, and I put screws just in the front, and then I put button head screws in the back, so it kind of let it float. It wasn't forcing against four countersinks, and that's how I ended up running all of them. Is that I would use the front two to locate them, and align them to my fixture, and then the rear two just to hold it down, and it worked perfectly. And I actually even barely just like bent them a little bit, not even bent them, but just kind of like flexed them towards the plate, and it kept them flat. And my counterbores were, within a thou across the entire lot, and everything was perfect. But it was one of those things where I was like so caught up in like, oh, this has to be material, or it has to be Boeing or something like that. Never once did I think like, oh, my fixturing method is based on like a good part, and these were Chinese garbage that weren't good part. Like I don't even know how you put holes in that far out, like, but that they were, and yeah. So anyway,
Maybe their fixturing wasn't on par.
my guess is they're not. I mean, I'm sure they're turned out by the tens of thousands in China somewhere, and they don't care. Like the tolerance for them is like, does it fit the plastic mounting holes in this enclosure? And like they could be probably 20 thou off in every direction and still fit the holes. So
Yeah.
they don't care. And I didn't know any better because the last lot ran totally fine. So anyway, that was a nice full circle thing, and it was nice to get them done. They're kind of a pain part, and they're probably not worth what I'm charging. They're probably worth a little more.
Yeah.
So live and learn. Next time I know better.
Yeah. You got to be careful with jobs like those, especially if you're not making enough, like you said, as you think you should be, and then problems like this come up and it really kills you.
Oh, I like doubly killed myself this time because I just
Yeah.
took all of my pricing for these whole assemblies from last time and was like, oh, everything ran totally fine. Like, why wouldn't I just give them the same pricing? Um, and not only was it a pain, but also I somehow threw away or lost my fixture from last time, so I had to make a new one of those. And well, I might have just thrown it away because I was like, oh, I haven't seen these in a year and a half. Like, I'm probably not ever
Yeah.
going to get them back. But
And that's the
anyway,
second you realize, nope, put that on the shelf because that's when the customer's writing that email.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So anyway, it was nice to be done. Nice to be all caught up. Of course, I like was celebrating last night being kind of slow. I was like, oh, I got a couple days to kind of relax this weekend. And then one of my customers hit me with back to back POs for like a bunch of parts that are all due to ship out Monday. And I'm like, well, at least they're not late and it's good money. So
Oh, shoot.
yeah, but yeah, so things are going well. Things are going really well.
So all like outstanding orders are caught up and done, and now you're like up to date with people emailing you.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
like I would wake up every day and like see the notification for email and just be like, oh, who's gonna yell at me today? Like,
Yeah.
and really those emails rarely came, but it was just one of those things. Like, I'm always like clenched, waiting for that email of like, hey, where are my parts? Or hey, why is this so late? Or it's like, ugh. So anyway, I'm up to date. Everything's current. Everything, all of my work currently is very manageable too. Like I've because I was so stressed, I was long quoting a lot of the work that I was getting during that time.
Yep.
And so like now I've got a few weeks to kind of plan all this out and do it methodically and not rush through anything besides this weekend order. And yeah, so it's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, you don't want those emails. I remember my first job I worked at, some guy from Boeing came to the shop and I was like, I was a newbie at the time. I'm like, who's that guy over there that's like in a suit? Like, what is he doing? He's like, oh yeah, he's from Boeing and they're really pissed. They need these parts. And I'm like, oh God. And
Oh
he's
yeah.
like, yeah, he stood there like in his car, like stood around all day until the lathe department like finished these parts. And I'm like, oh my God, I would not want to be this company right now.
No, no. Well, I know like some aerospace companies like charge penalties for lateness too, and like they get charged penalties from their customers. So like,
That's
th-
crazy, like, once you get to that level.
yeah, yeah, it's scary. But yeah, so things are going awesome though. Otherwise, we're I just got in, I think the last tool, or I'm waiting on one more tool for that titanium order. We're getting all ramped up for that. I've got some more grills to do. I'm reprocessing one of the small grills that I haven't done in a while that wasn't on the vacuum fixtures yet. So I'm going to go back to the vacuum fixture on that one. Um, yeah. Otherwise, yeah, it's moving right along.
That's awesome.
What about you? How are things going?
I'm trying to think. Last time I talked, Well, I haven't even talked about this. So I got my printing fixture done. That turned out that was definitely a good lesson in how much plate work sucks.
That's
And
right. We even
how
talked about it. We talked about it over DM, but we never talked about it on here.
yeah, and so now it just gives me a whole perspective of the people that buy these big machines just for plate work. I'm like, yeah, you can keep all that work. That's fine. Like, you can do that. You can deal with all this. And I'm sure, just like with everything, there's a bunch of tricks that I obviously don't know that would have made my life easier. But going into it, I learned a lot. And so I got the actual aluminum plate done. And then I started making the actual Delrin, like little pallets that go on top. And like I showed you, I was really worried that the master plate, the aluminum plate, would be bowed, and then those holes would be bowed, and the pallets wouldn't go on straight. And turns out it works perfectly. Um, and the only thing, and I found this really interesting with what you brought up, is I cut these Delrin pallets. I cut these pockets out to put parts in, and it bowed one way. And you're like, well, what if you just flip it and cut the same, basically run the same program? And that basically counteracted the bow and it made it perfectly flat, which I was like, huh, that's interesting how stress works like that.
Yeah, yeah. When it's cast material, I mean, it's kind of like a guess, but like very often the stresses are more or less equal across the cross section of it. So if you do something to one side, you want to do it to the other, and yeah, it's always fun working with material that's flexing a bunch. Like there's a bunch of different little ways that you can tweak it and do stuff like that. Take roughing both sides and finishing both sides, or roughing one side and then like I've had brass before on me warp like a ton. I was doing these parts that had to be flat and parallel within two, I think, at my first job, and like I did one side, never having cut brass before, and like they warped 20 or 30 thou. Like they literally, when I opened the jaws, popped out like a potato chip. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, how do I do? Like, what do I do? And then we ended up annealing them in a heat treat oven, and like that total like I like so the first one came out like a potato chip, and I was like, oh great, I'm screwed. And then we ended up just annealing all of the stock in a heat treat oven, and like it got rid of all of the stresses and it cut beautifully for the rest of the job.
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly talking about the Delrin I had more problems with. The aluminum, I would say over 18 inches bowed, maybe like, I don't know, 50 thou, maybe. And like, I knew that was definitely going to happen. But the Delrin, that's what really caught me off guard is like over 6 inches, it bowed like an eighth of an inch. And I was like, oh, geez. And like, after you said just flip it and run the program, I did that. And I was like, okay, like this is going to work. And so I did that and I'm already using it for printing, but like I told you, there's so many fixtures I need made and I don't have the machine time right now to make them. So I'm kind of getting by with what I got right now. I made so far two different fixtures, one for Lego heads for the minifigure, and then one for some bricks. And then, yeah, I got to make some more, but it's working. And I mean, I printed, let's see, like 2,000 heads in like I don't know 5 hours, maybe less, which is really really good, like really good for me. So that alone was like a huge plus. And I released these three new products, and they're already like halfway sold out. And that was with these new printing jigs, and like it just all fell together. I'm like, okay, this is gonna work. Like this is allowing me to make more products in a shorter period of time, and those products are selling out quickly, so it's gonna work.
Yeah, yeah, it was really cool seeing your, was it a Instagram video that you did about
Yeah.
the fixtures and stuff? Like that was, it was really cool to see it working, and also you testing them, and like I found it interesting that you had to move individual heads different directions. Like I would have thought that like the movement would have been all of them one way or the other, but
Yeah.
it was
I mean,
really cool.
yeah, I did one that was kind of like what is UV printing on my BrickTactical MFG one, which I think was good for a lot of people too cuz they didn't understand the technology. And then like you said, the one I did on my main BrickTactical, I think was good. And actually, I got a lot of good feedback from that. So it was nice to, and I think, like you said, it's just nice to show people like this is the process, like this is what I'm doing. And yeah, so I got a lot of good feedback from that. I'm glad I did that, even though I'm showing, you know, some stuff I normally wouldn't show just because of competitors. But at this point, I don't care. Like, I'm a firm believer in like what Grimsmo says. It's like, I can give away all my secrets, but there's not going to be another BrickTactical. Like you're buying me to some extent.
Oh, totally. Yeah. People buy from you because, well, not solely because of your story, but like that's a
Yeah,
big part because they're like, oh, like I know Peyton from his Instagram, or I know Peyton because of this. Like I want to support him. So
yeah.
I,
Or
I
he's been
totally
around
agree.
for 10 years versus 10 days. The other guy that tries to, So I don't know. I've been opening up more on YouTube and Instagram, which is nice. And so I got that printing fixture done. That's awesome. And then let's see. I'm trying to think. I knocked out some parts that I thought were going to be pretty difficult. I thought they were going to be like 5 ops, but I don't know why I thought that, but I was able to do them 3 ops, knock those out. The blend lines are just perfect. Like I couldn't have asked for anything better. I'm always scared when you have like a radius and you try to do half of it in op 1 and the other half in op 2. It's just so hard to line that up, but I nailed it and I was like, "Yes." So, got that done. And then let's see. I actually posted on Instagram if anyone had any like double station vices for sale. And a guy actually hit me up. He's like, I'm like 30 minutes from you. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I got like 3 vices for sale. You want to come check them out? And so maybe, I don't know if he'll reply tonight, but maybe tomorrow I'll see if I can stop by. He started with a Tormach and has a mini mill now. And he's got some double station vices. So I'm going to try to load my table up for this next batch of parts I'm working on. So I need more parts on the table, I'm realizing.
Yeah, yeah, especially with the quantities that you've been doing recently. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the part I'm working on, I count 7 ops, eight
Oh,
ops.
jeez.
So like, I just want to be able to get one complete part done. Because I hate the idea of running like ops 1 through 4, like for all your stock, and then you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm gonna set up ops 5 through 8, and then it's like, crap, I screwed up something.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big no no for sure.
Yeah, you
You
got
got
to
to
have
know
that
where you
one
can.
piece flow.
Oh yeah, if you can for sure, and like you got to just know like where your issues could be. Like
Yep.
sometimes if you have to, just like set up an op early just to double check something, and then only run one or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
it was like so in Fusion, it's great because you can simulate multiple ops and like make sure that it matches your model. So you can do that in pretty much any cam. But that funny story. So the last shop I worked in, the 2 guys who worked with me, it was a Mastercam shop. And in Mastercam, you can have different WCSs, and you use the WCS manager to kind
Yep.
of float around and put them all on the part. So one of the guys knew better, and one of the guys like had just kind of learned coming up in that shop, and they never knew about the WCS manager. So every time they were
Oh
programming a
my
new
god.
op, they would duplicate the part onto a different level and then rotate the part to fit what WCS was already set up.
Oh god.
And so one time I was out sick, I think, and I had programmed a part, and like they were trying to modify something or anything. But anyway, they I come back the next day, and they're like, I don't understand what you did. Like, why in the hell? Like, I can see op two and the tree, but I can't see it anywhere else. Like, what did you do? Like, I don't understand. And I like showed them the WCS manager and like ran multiple ops at the same time through the simulator, and watching their minds literally get blown.
Break.
Yeah, it was so funny. And the one guy who knew better, he was like, "Oh yeah, I do remember that now. I probably should be using that." I was like, "Yeah, we should all probably be using that, huh?" Like,
Man, throwback to when you had levels. Oh my god.
I know, right?
Oh
Yeah,
gosh,
it feels
memories.
straight out of like AutoCAD or something.
Yeah, that's funny.
So what else did you do today? Because you were saying just before we started that you got all kinds of dirty today and sweaty and all kinds of fun.
Yeah, it was funny. I was walking upstairs to change, because I had to go somewhere, and I was like, "I'm gonna get all these dirty tasks done today." And I was walking upstairs, like, my t-shirt was completely black, chips, my jeans, like, you worked and busted your ass when there's no more spots to wipe your hands. And so I was like, "Crap, like, I need to start carrying towels around." And so, like, I was just doing everything. So I started by adding more oil to my air compressor, and it was really low, which is kinda scary. Um, so topped that off, figured that out, and thanks to entirely Crimsman and Nick, because they both have the same compressor, and I was talking to them about it. So, because it just hit, I think I'm up to 2,100 hours on that compressor,
Oh, nice.
and that's pretty good for having it for 2 years. About 1,000 hours a year, so that's not bad.
Yeah, for sure.
And so got that fixed, got that taken care of. It's healthy, it's happy. I dusted it off, cleaned it, all that good stuff. And then I had to, let's see. So the Haas chip auger is held on by this like V band clamp. And mine a while back, it totally like failed. And the chip auger tipped over, leaked coolant all over the place. I posted about that a while back.
Yeah, I
And
remember
yeah.
that.
And I was able to, like, with a hammer and a vise, fix the V band clamp and get it to work. And it was actually fine. But fast forward to when I broke this tool pot off the machine, I also mentioned to my guy, I'm like, "Hey, I need a new V-band clamp, and that should be covered by warranty because I'm still under parts warranty." And even though it was like a $20 part, and so they sent that. And just recently, this was like months ago. Just recently, I got an email from him. It was like an automated email, and I emailed him back. I'm like, "What is this email?" He's like, "Oh, you have to send back the bad part," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so the bad part was still on my machine because I had fixed it. And so I had a new one that I was just going to keep as a spare. So I had to take off the old one, which was basically fine at this point, and put on this new one. So I did that, and that sucks because you have to like sit on the ground. It's a total two-person job, but I did it myself. You have to take this chip auger off, clean it, and then somehow I was sitting on the ground, crisscross applesauce, balancing the chip auger on my right shoulder while I line it up with my left hand. And then you have to grab a wrench and like thread on this lock nut for like 2 inches of threads. And you can't get an impact gun or anything in there. So I'm sitting there for like 20 minutes, like doing a quarter crank at a time. Um, yeah, that was fun. So I finally did that. I'm looking at the V band that I have to send back. And then I fixed that tool pot that broke off, so now tool 14 lives again.
Yay.
So that's good. I had put a red piece of duct tape on the carousel, so if for whatever reason I forgot and I called that tool, I could see it and e-stop it before, so it doesn't just drop the tool. Um,
Oh, yeah, that would
and
suck.
so, yeah, that would not be fun. And let's see. Yeah, so I cleaned that. That's all good to go. I cleaned out the chip tray. I cleaned out the filter. Um, what else did I do? I did something else really dirty. Oh yeah, I topped off the coolant. I did like everything I could think of with that machine. Oh yeah, then I even pulled back the way covers just to peek in there. That was kind of cool.
Oh, I saw that on your stories. Yeah, it looked pretty clean actually.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Adam because I know he did that like I don't know a couple months ago, and I was like, "How does this look?" And he's like, "Honestly, that looks really good. I would just leave it." I'm like, "Yeah, I came to that conclusion too. It looked really nice." I think the X-axis would be a little bit worse, but I didn't feel like taking it off. There's just way more screws, um, but maybe in another 6 months I'll look at it. But yeah, I was very happy with how clean that was, and I'm trying to think. I
I was
think
just
that's
happy to
it.
see how much grease was in there because I know who is it? All American Manufacturing on Instagram had like an issue with some of his lines getting plugged.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and so like they ended up having to. I think he used like kerosene or something to flush all the lines, and then they had to install some new ones. And I've heard that on various hosses that like eventually they get plugged, and like all of a sudden you're like, oh, why is my grease not going down at all?
Yeah.
But yours like seems super well greased, so I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, and honestly, I've never like looked in there. Like I was just like, I want to see what these rails look like. I want to see what this ball screw looks like. So it was just kind of cool to see, um, and just get more comfortable with the machine. Be like, yes, these are just way covers. Like this is what's under it. Like it's not that complicated when you break it down.
Well, yeah, totally. Yeah.
So that was good. All that's done, and now it's like I'm programming this part and I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to do it because I got 150 of them to do, and it's a big chunk of plate. It's like it's hefty. A lot of metal is going to come off this. I'm going to make a lot of chips, which I'm not looking forward to, but yeah. And then I'm trying to think. I've I'm just totally a production shop. Like it's ridiculous. I've got like two or three more jobs already lined up, and I'm telling them like you guys got to like wait, and it's like a couple hundred parts each, which is great cuz I like doing that complicated. I love doing setups. Like I hate running production, but I love doing the complicated setups and like dialing it in. And so that part of it's fun, but then you get to that production and you're just like, this is really boring. Um, but it's money, and it's nice when it's set up and it's a long enough cycle time that it's like I can walk away for an hour, um, and go do other things. But I hate it when it's like, oh, it's 7 minutes to do a 3/0 part, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even breathe. Like,
Yeah, those suck. I'm
yeah, they
never
do.
a big fan of short stuff like that. Like those electrical plates I was doing, they ran for 9 minutes, but then to take 8 screws out and put 8 screws back in and align everything took 2 or 3 minutes. And I was like,
Yep.
dude, this sucks. Like I hate that so much.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, it just can't be avoided, unfortunately, but you just gotta try to add that to your quoting and figure out, okay, is this gonna be a bitch to run, or is this gonna be pretty straightforward?
Totally. Yeah. Um, oh, I also got my coolant gun that Greg and I were talking about last time. I've got
Oh, I
it all
saw that.
installed.
Yeah.
It's like night and day. I can actually like reach the sides of my enclosure and, and clean everything. Like so I actually did a big deep clean on the machine on Saturday maybe or Sunday. I ended up having to get inside my machine too because I couldn't
Yep.
get one of the windows, and so I got in and I actually found out one of my windows is already starting to get marked up from the face mill, just hammering it with chips.
Yep.
I was like, oh yeah. Um,
You're like, I don't like to see it, but I like it.
yeah, it's like, oh, that's money. That's okay. That means I'm getting stuff off pretty quick.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, things are yeah. There's a lot of little projects I'm super excited for. Excited to get the fixture plate on in the next week or two, probably 2 weeks because I got to get all this work out too. But I'll at least get the tool setter uh, riser done, and like I got that all modeled up, and it's going to be on a orange station. And I had some people reach out and they're like, "Oh, well, you should fit it between the stations, blah blah blah." But then I had someone else reach out and show me like their Lang plate modeled up, like they've got four vices on there and their tool setter on a few locations, and they were like, "Actually, this is a really good idea because then you can kind of move it around if you need to." I was like, "All right, I feel better."
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be a good couple weeks. Finally get TSC all going. I got to get some. I think I need to get a 6 and a 5 millimeter sealed collet for a drill and a reamer. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to think of what else has gone on in the shop. Not much. I was running the TC a bunch too recently, which is nice. Like it's definitely not as easy to run as the Speedio, but it is really easy to set up, and like compared to the Kitty where I had to like rotate pallets in and out and yada yada yada, like it's significantly easier to set up than a pallet changing machine. So
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. Who is that? I think it was like Core Print Patterns had that Speedio palette changer machine.
oh yeah, yeah, I think it was an R650 or an R450.
I know he sold it.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
If I had, you know, if I was making a few
Volume.
thousand parts a month, like all year, I would totally get one because I don't think you
Yeah.
can get a quicker pallet station machine. But besides that, like it's just not worth it for me.
It's just an expensive machine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now they've got the new one. The X2 has, you can get it up to a 40 tool changer, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And that,
That's a big difference.
yeah, yeah, almost doubling the tools. So, um, yeah. Otherwise, it's been pretty good. What do you got going on in the shop this week?
Let's see. It's Tuesday. What do I got? So I finished up. I have like 3 parts that I'm working on. I finished up one of them. I'm gonna pack and ship those after this. Um, Tumbler works great on those. I love the little Harbor Freight tumbler. So did those. I don't know if I want to knock out this little 100-piece order. They're like parts the size of a quarter, or like that would probably take me like a day to run, like a solid 12-hour day to finish those. Or if I want to get this big job going of these bigger pieces, I kind of want to do that. Um, but I just know it's gonna be like a week's. It's just gonna be a week-long job, and it's gonna push me. Let's just put it that way. There's gonna be some crazy fixtures, and honestly, I really should probably text this guy and say, "Hey, can I check these vices out tomorrow?" Um, and
What did
start.
you say they were? Did you say they were orange or are they Kurt?
They are. I don't know what brand they are. Honestly, I think they're like either Shars or it's Kurt. I honestly just he told me he's got or not two. Two of them are 4 inches, so they're tiny, and then one's a 6 inch. And I figure even if I can I know I could fit the 6 inch on and still keep my orange and my other single station, but it'd be nice if I could fit just one of those little 4 inch ones just for like, you get those parts that just have like a dumb cross hole at like a weird angle and you just need just a little clamping force. Like that's it. Um, and these parts have a lot of those features. So I'm thinking that would be a easy way to not take up table real estate, but still hold some parts.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Totally.
So I'll have to check him out tomorrow. I'm curious to see what he does. He has an Instagram, but I don't want to shout that out. I don't know if he wants me to or not, but he's got some cool stuff going on. So I'd be curious to check it out. So I need to do that, and I've got like up 1 through 5 programmed. And it's one of those things like I've learned, at least with myself and the way I learn and approach parts, like I'll start throwing on toolpath. Like I don't worry about speeds and feeds yet. Like I'll just throw toolpath on there and I want it to simulate. And I just want it to like make the part. And then I'll go back and I'll be like, okay, speed this up, slow this down, boom, 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 whatever. And then I start running it and you just go one toolpath at a time. You're like, okay, the roughing's great. Like, no worries. This finish pass, too fast. Slow that down. And you just keep going through it. And it's just a process. Like, it's just very involved. And like, time flies by when I do this, I found.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's. I feel like that's part of my quoting process that I've gotten better at the more I do is like realizing how long I'm actually going to spend on stuff.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many times where I'm like, yeah, I can program that in like 20 minutes. And then I'm like, oh, well, actually, I'm going to make all these patch surfaces and screw around
Yep.
with this. And like 2.5 hours later, I'm like, well, that didn't serve me well. Like,
Yeah, and it's weird for me, and I was talking to Adam because I got this big quote for some 4140 heat treated parts that I do not really want to touch. And I asked him, I'm like, how would you even like tackle this? And he was really helpful, and he brought up, I brought up like the whole NRE concept because some custom tools would have to be made and then programming and all that. But then he brought up, with high volume stuff, he just kind of because personally, I don't charge people for programming more or less. Like it's just built into the part. And that's, I think, more because I have the volume. For smaller stuff, I'll be like, hey, like tack on $100 for an hour of programming or whatever. Um, but really, that's just to kind of I don't know. It's like a cushion, I guess. I'm not sure how to explain it, but at some point you have to just build it into parts because I feel like it could be a turn off to customers. They're like, well, what is this programming fee? Like, what is this? Like, I just want a per price, like per part
oh, yeah,
price.
no, I would never break it out for sure. All of mine is just factored into it, but it's on my spreadsheet, is what I
Okay,
mean.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I would never factor that kind of stuff out unless somebody specifically asked me to, because you're just asking for pushback. for
Yeah.
sure. Well, that's cool though. That sounds like you're staying really busy. I'm pumped to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. Trying to think. There's something else I was thinking of. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, machine's good, everything's good. Trying to think who I was talking to. If anyone messaged me, this is a public service announcement. If you message me and I give you like a one-word reply or I just like your message, it's because I'm really busy. And I hate being that guy that's like, "Oh, I'm really busy," but, like, I can't explain to you, like, how what's going on, so, like, I'm not trying to be like a dick, it just happens, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm right there with you. I very often will see a message and like it at work because I'm like, I can't respond back how I want to right now.
Yeah, exactly, and if I forget to reply, just hit me up again or email me, like, I'm always here to help people out, but, like, sometimes it's like, I'm doing a setup, I'm indicating something, I don't have time to think about a message about what machine I should buy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of people in this industry know the feeling though too.
Yeah. Oh, that's one thing I was gonna say, and one of Saunders' latest factory tours on that big job shop or whatever, and they were talking about plate work, and back to me hating plate work or not wanting to quote it ever. And they had these giant plates, and he was like, well, "What flatness or parallelism are you holding or whatever?" And he's like, plus or minus 20 thou. And at first I was like, "Damn, that thing's a potato chip." But then I'm like, "But it's 16 feet long. That's flat."
Right. Yeah.
I was
Exactly.
like, "Holy cow, these people, these are like, yeah, that's crazy."
Speaking of Saunders, actually, so I want to say maybe 2 or 3 months ago, we were talking about 5 axis and how you were like, oh, I wonder if I could just get a UR and then like standardize my stock sizes
Mhm.
for everything. So I went back and watched his Hermley tour,
Okay.
and they have a full robot system that does that.
Yeah, that machine.
The Kanban or Kanban robot system. And so like there's all the slots for
Yep.
different size stock, and then like you just tell it what size stock and it picks the vice and picks the stock and all that stuff. And I was like, oh man, that is so cool.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, I'm telling you, if
pretty
someone comes
fantastic.
up with a way, I don't know if Fifth Axis has it with their pneumatic system yet or whatever, but if you could offer me a way I could put a TRT 160 on my machine and have automated pallets like with a pull stud of because the TRT doesn't have air through the table and there's no way to do that. So I don't know how you would do that, but if you can figure that out, I'll be your first customer.
I feel like you could maybe figure it out with a Pearson if you could fit like their new, whenever they come out with their fourth axis one on there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking and have it press the button.
Well, like you could have like a port on the UR with like a like kind of like the umbilical that they use to refuel jets in the
Yeah.
air. Like you could have something like that where like when it goes to drop off the pallet, that extends or like gets pressed into the Pearson pallet and pops the lock and lets you drop a pallet on there and then releases as you pull away.
Yeah, cuz see the only problem is like the only problem for those that are confused right now is you can't have airlines and anything like that on this because if you're starting to do the C axis and spit it in a circle, then you're going to run into problems with an airline. At least that's what I've thought through.
Yeah, I don't know why Haas shoots themselves in the foot so much with air through the table. Like they've done it now at the UMC and both of the UMCs actually. Now that I think about it,
Yeah, it
and
can't be that big of a liability issue.
well, like even Jay said that there is a passage for it pretty much already.
Yeah.
So it's just seems odd that they would I don't know, just like not support something that is so clearly the future.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's weird, it's frustrating. I've definitely been thinking about a fourth axis a lot lately because I mean, 15,000 versus pushing 50,000 and being able to hit some of these parts and, you know, 2 to 3 setups versus 7 to 8 setups for only 15K is pretty tempting.
Yeah, totally. I would love a fourth. I have definitely thought about it. And I just can't pull the trigger quite yet, but
Yeah.
I'll get there for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing with me.
We'll both get there. I mean, I think we're, as of right now, like there's only been a handful of parts that would like directly benefit from a fourth. Like I would really like a fourth just to be able to get like the sides of certain parts, but like there's been a few parts where it's like I've got holes on every single side, and this would really really help. Or like being able to tab it off after doing five sides or something like that would be really nice. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we'll get there, man. I'm not worried about that. All in
Dang,
due
we're
time.
already 40 minutes in. What the heck?
I know we had a lot to catch up on, man. We had a great episode last week with Greg, but we've actually put in the work the last couple of weeks.
I don't know what it is, dude. These weeks are flying by. I must be getting old or something, but like literally, it's going to be next Tuesday before you know it, and we're going to be recording again. Like, it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah. So before we jump into questions, should we talk about next week a little bit?
Yeah, you want to go for it?
Yeah. So for everybody listening, we are going to skip a guest next week. And as we promised or have been kind of teasing over the last few episodes, we are going to do our first video episode. And so we're going to get some webcams, and I'll bring my stuff down to the shop, and Peyton and I you'll be able to see us both react in addition to, talk. And we'll make sure that it's recorded and still posted on your favorite podcast platform if you don't want to see our ugly mugs. But if you do, we'll also post that on probably. I think we can just make a quick with Intolerance YouTube, and we can post that on there for anybody who wants to follow along and kind of have a more, I guess, immersive experience. I don't know.
I don't know what you
So,
talk about, ugly mugs. I'm the most fly machinist out there.
oh man. So yeah, we're gonna do a special year episode. We're gonna do some giveaways as well. I guess should they start posting them now, and then we can also talk about it on the video one, and decide the following week.
I'm trying to think because we know the concept, but I don't know if we want to add anything to it.
Yeah.
Um,
So we'll release the rules of the giveaway next week on our video podcast, and you guys can participate or not, or whatever. But we just wanted to do something kind of special for making it through a year.
Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. All
All
right,
right.
well, let's jump into the
Question time.
questions. Yeah, for sure.
All right. What do we got here? We got a
Let's start with
bunch.
that second one from Dieter. Says, "Why does Peyton stay up so damn late?"
What are you talking about?
Oh, I think you know. The
Yeah,
last few
by
nights posted on your stories, what, 3, 4, 5 a.m.
5 a.m. The sun's rising and I'm going to bed.
Oof.
Yeah. The best way to answer that is I get really busy in the like mornings, I feel, and I forget about two things. One, 75 hard, and I forget to do a freaking workout because you have to do two. And so I'll be at like if you see me on Instagram, or you don't even have to see me, like there's probably a 95% chance between the hours of 1 to 3 a.m. I'm probably doing a core workout, and you could probably message me and make my day feel better. Um, so there's that. And then also I'm 20 and I try to have a social life, and it ends up being really late at night because all the boys want to be out late, which is fine. I'm a night owl anyways, but I'll do that. I'll go hang out with people, and then I'll be like, crap, I still need to do a workout. So I get home at like 4 a.m. and I'm like, I gotta stay up. Like, I'm not quitting. Like, I gotta do this workout. So yeah.
So speaking of that, what's the update on 75 hard?
Yeah. So I posted this, and I'm honestly like, I'm not even like mad or like upset or anything. Like, proud's not the right word because that's not true. But like, I'm happy to share the experience. So I started 75 hard. I don't know when. I'd have to check, but like over a month ago, like 40 days ago, and day 36 I failed. And well, I'll actually tell the full story. So I think it was day 36. Yeah. So I woke up and I was like, I don't know what made me think of it, but I'm like, I don't think I took a progress picture yesterday. and I checked my phone and I didn't. And I'm like, crap. So I got up and I took one and I'm like, you know what? Like, that's not a big deal. But then I felt bad about that the whole day. And then that night I was hanging out with someone and I was like, there's no way I'm getting 2 workouts in. It's already 3 in the morning. Like, I'm not even home yet. Like, I'm gonna be home by like 6 or 7 in the morning. Like, this is not happening. I still have to read 10 pages. I have to do all this stuff. I have to chug 2 more bottles of water. Like, this is not happening. So, like, it was to the point where I was just, it was out of my control. And I was like, crap, like, I should have saw this coming. Like, I knew I was hanging out with these people. Like, I should have done this earlier in the day. That's all on me. And I was like, all right, I'm starting over. And so I'm on day like 5. Yeah, day 5 today. So I'm starting over. But the way I look at it is just with like Grimsmo said, he's been doing this for a year and a half or however long. Like, my goal is to make this, all these things, a habit, and like to do it 365 days a year. Like, the only reason, I don't know why the 75 exists, but I think it's kind of like, just a good goal to get there. So if I'm starting over, I'm going to get to it this time, 75 days straight, and I'll be able to say, yes, I did it straight for 75 days, but I'm not going to stop. And that's the biggest thing. Like, I'm not going to stop doing this. So I think it was just a really good, like, mental lesson, maybe. But yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at.
Well, I am sorry that that happened, but it sounds like it was definitely a overall good thing.
Yeah, I agree. And then actually, my boy Brandon from MFG Solutions sent me, there's actually a book that Andy Frisella wrote, 75 Hard. They like, I don't follow Andy Frisella as much as I used to. I used to listen to his podcast, but apparently, like, these books sold out in like an hour, and he had some extras in the whole. He was selling them in like individually and then packs of 5. And the packs of 5 were like, the idea was you buy it at a discount and you give them out to people, and that's what Brandon did. So he gave me one. I just got it, and it's actually perfect because I just finished another book and I need to start a new book. So I'm gonna start reading this tonight, and I appreciate that, Brandon. So everyone check his stuff out.
Nice, good on him. That's a really cool thing for him to do.
Yeah, it's cool, and we're actually gonna do. He'd be cool to have on, actually, now that I think about it. Um, but me and him, we're gonna go live on Instagram and kind of talk about like our stories because we're both younger, and like he wanted to talk about like kind of how he does 75 hard while running his machine shop and how I do it. And I think it'd be interesting because honestly, the way this Instagram community is, I think it's so cool. I think it'd be pretty sick if we got like everybody doing this, or not this specifically, but I think it'd be cool to just see, honestly, like, it makes me feel better knowing that I'm like killing myself working out, and like, the workout feeling, right? Like, you're like about to die, but you're like, I did it, and I know I'm helping my body and all that. I think it'd be cool to get more machinists, because I know how we all are entrepreneurs. We say we're busy when maybe you're not or whatnot, but you gotta push yourself and you gotta do what's right for your body.
For sure. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like when you're burning the candle at both ends, having that kind of lifestyle actually really helps. Like having a consistent workout and like consistent diet and all that stuff. Like it might not be the most, I don't know, adventurous thing, but like it's super super helpful.
Yeah. And I've learned, for myself at least, being an entrepreneur, I don't like schedules. Like, I hate schedules. They stress me out. But I'm learning, and I still am. And honestly, I really need to get on it. I need to wake up at a more set time. Like, it's too far off from day to day and it screws me over. I need to wake up, and I've been better about not checking my phone right away, and I'm actually doing my 10 pages of reading right away, which is nice. Um, and it gives me something to think about, like, right before I shower and stuff like that and get ready. Um, and then, like, for example, today, I got so busy today, like, I was gonna do one of my workouts before I came on here, but I didn't have time. And so now by the time we're done with this, I got to do 2 workouts. So I'm gonna go for probably go for a walk first before it gets dark, and then come back and do my core workout. But like, it's just, I need to set some schedules for myself just so I can eliminate any of these potentials because it kind of sucks when you like, all right, it's 2 a.m. and I got to work out for 2 hours straight. Like it's just, it can be avoided.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that. I mean, you're still doing it, but something tells me that Andy Frisella isn't like, yeah, do all of your
Oh
workouts at
yeah,
3 a.m.
yeah. I mean, like I said, at least I'm doing it, and I'm definitely learning about myself and how I operate as a human, which is, I think this is like he said, it's all mental. That's what this is about. You know.
Totally. Yeah. No, I think that's awesome, man.
All right. What are some other questions we got?
Obsidian Tools is another one for you. He said, Peyton, have you ever thought about outsourcing the tedious packaging and sorting work to some grandmas in your neighborhood who want to make some extra bucks?
How about my grandma that's probably listening to this that does it for free? Shout out, grandma.
Well, there you go. So, yes, he has thought about it and he's doing
When we
it.
say BrickTactical is a family business, I mean it. So
That's
you
awesome.
might get your World War II German soldier, and it was not packed by me.
Oh man. Now people are going to be buying more hoping that your grandma's packaging it.
Yeah, got more extra love.
Yeah, there you go. Uh let's
I like
see.
Adam's question. Have either of you run a shaper after you posted your picture?
Oh yeah, I haven't. Like I've always wanted to kind of play on one. I know I had a bunch of people message me like, "Oh, like there's no way you're never gonna make money with that." Blah blah blah. Well, for everybody who was panicked about me making money on a shaper, I bought it for Brad as a birthday gift because he had like said for years, um, "Oh, I really want a shaper. I want to play on a shaper." Blah blah blah. And SMW Machine Works, not Saunders, but Superstition Machine Works. He's in Phoenix, and he had one, um, at SMWRC on Instagram. He found that and a surface grinder in like a barn find or some old guy's estate that was selling it, and he had no use for it. And so I saw it and was like, hey, if you're getting rid of that, I'm happy to buy it, if you can hold on to it for a couple weeks. And then we ended up going up, and this was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and
Okay.
we bought it for Brad, and it's just been sitting in the corner since. Because guess what? I'm not making any money on a shaper. It's just a project. But I really want to run one. Like it seems like every time I watch one of their videos, I'm like, oh man, that's like super relaxing. Like it's just so
Very
hypnotic.
methodical. Like, I don't know.
Have you ever run one?
I haven't. I've seen them, but other than that,
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll get mine running, and then you can come down and have a go at it.
yeah, that's your goal now. Get the shaper going. Please don't.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
got
Right.
more important things.
Yeah. I've got 2 or 3 pages of to dos before shaper is even
Yeah.
at the bottom. Let's see.
What is this one at the top? Cobra Frame Builders says shop space.
Oh yeah. So Joe from Cobra. Let me. I didn't write it out because we had kind of gone back and forth a whole bunch about it, and I wanted to. I gotta figure out if it was in my Instagram or the Within Tolerance one, but his question was more or less about like shop space. Like he's looking at moving. He's running out of space in his place.
In his
And
garage?
well, he like rents a small shop,
Okay.
um, but it's not like a really ideal place. So he said, I feel like both of you have an interesting experience to share. Dylan seems to have some kind of industrial warehouse space in an industrial park. What are the pros and cons of that? Does it feel like it's worth the money? Was it hard to find? Did you use a commercial realtor or not? And then Peyton seems to work out of his residential garage after all the hassles of phase converters, low ceilings, limited square footage, neighbors, HOAs, coolant smell in your house, access for things like material and machine delivery, professionalism of running a business from a residence. Does it ever get old? Do you ever feel antsy to get to a more business appropriate space, or do you love the convenience and cost savings of working where you live too much to want to leave?
All good questions. You want me to
Yeah.
go?
Yeah, you go first talking about a residential place.
Okay. I'm lucky that the neighbors to the left closest to my machine are like total hermits, and I don't know if they're even home half the time. So that's good for like noise. And then the far right, it's far enough away. And honestly, like when I run these one parts where I'm pushing my shear hog at like 400 inches a minute, like that's the loudest it's ever been. And I'll with that, the air compressor on, my injection molding machine running, and I'll close all the doors and walk out to the front street. You can like only hear the shear hog. And like on a normal day's use of running my machine, like you can maybe hear the air compressor and it just sounds like someone's vacuuming like faintly. Like it's very minimal. Um so sound for me, I'm lucky. Other people are much closer. Like my houses, they're close together, um, but I've seen closer together, like you could jump from roof to roof. It's not, I don't live in an area like that. Um, but you got to be careful about that. The coolant smell is, I mean, that's just machining. As long as you have dedicated clothes, like that can be controlled, in my opinion. Um,
So you don't get it in your house at all, though. Like you can't smell your a fresh. I was gonna say a fresh pot of coffee, but a fresh tank of coolant from your room or anything like that.
no, no. Trying to think. The convenience is nice because, I mean, let's face it, I can do things that Dylan can't simply because he has to commute. Um, I don't know if those things are worth it because at sometimes I wish I could go home and leave everything behind, and not think about it and not feel obligated to keep working. Um, Someone posted a meme on Instagram that was like, "Do you ever like stress out?" What was it? It was like, "Do you ever stress out about not working on the things that stress you out, so you work on those things that stress you out," or something like that? Like that's definitely real, and having access to everything is it's hard, but I mean, I can run parts while I sleep, and that's pretty cool. Um, and I'm trying to think what were the other questions. Low ceiling height, that's all house dependent, but most garages I would assume are pretty much the same. Pretty much all Haas's, not all, like a VF2, DM2, mini mills, all those can fit. It's close, but they can fit. Um, Phase converters, I think the industry and the Instagram community is starting to realize that these machines are overrated for amps, and most phase converters could run multiple machines easily. So as long as you're willing to pay for a phase converter, I mean, that's pretty easy to do. Um, the material suppliers, I pick all my stuff up locally. I could get it here, but the problem is I don't know how it's going to come on a truck, and I don't have a forklift, so that's like why I pick it up, because they have forklifts there that can load it. And then machines getting delivered. Honestly, more and more machine companies are realizing that, machines are being delivered to home shops. I think that's becoming more normal. So,
Like,
just
how
for
was the rigging to your place? Was it at all difficult, or was it pretty easy for them to put it in there?
luckily I have like a dead flat garage, not garage, well, garage, yes, but also the driveway.
Hmm.
But there is a curb that they have to get up, and they just parked the truck on the street, got the machine off, and like slowly tiptoed the forklift up this, normal size curb, and it was fine. So that was fine. And I'm trying to think, oh yeah, about being taken like seriously or being professional. I I think times are changing and that a lot more people are working from home. So I think I don't think that's as much of an issue. Like, yeah, if Boeing wanted to come check out my shop, like, I don't think I'm gonna get work from them like that. Um,
I don't know though. I hear there's more garage shops up there in the Pacific Northwest doing work for like Boeing and stuff
that's
than
true.
anywhere else in the world. Like there's so many people that they're one guy doing like one or two parts for Boeing and they do it really well, and then like they make all their money that way, or at least they used to. I mean, I don't know how it is anymore, but I definitely heard stories of that.
Oh yeah, I believe that too. But I mean, some of the companies I work with are pretty big top dog guys, and I just make sure everything's neat and tidy as it can be, and try to show off when they come over. And I think the when it comes to stuff like that, I mean, you could be in a barn in the middle of nowhere, but if you show them parts you've made and they're beautiful, I mean, that's your work. Like that's it. Like end of story. Like who cares what it looks like, unless you have requirements that, you need to meet like ISO or something, then obviously, that conversation gets brought up. But for me, as long as they come out and they say, "Hey, like we like you, we see the parts you make," yeah, like that's kind of where I would stand on that.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And like realistically, I don't know about your customers, but most of my customers don't care where I am. Like
Yeah,
I've had a few that like we're friendly with, and they're like, "Oh, we want to come by and see the shop because like we're friendly."
yeah.
But like most of them are just like, "Did you deliver on time? Cool beans. We'll talk to you later." Like
Well, yeah,
that's
and
it,
another
you know?
thing with you, because you ship more parts, no one's ever gonna see your shop.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
as long
exactly.
as you got the capabilities, you got the capabilities. Can you make this? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, boom, here it is. Like, and I'm starting to realize that with a lot more parts that I'm shipping, it's like I could be anywhere in the world and do this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that just farm work out and like they farm it out and then resell it more or less.
Exactly. Yeah. Sub it out.
So yeah. And then as far as my space goes, I've got 1,000 square feet and 100 amps in an industrial, business park or whatever. We pay just under 700 a month for it. We don't
That's
have a
such a
shared.
good deal.
It's a really good deal, but like we don't have a shared bathroom. We don't have AC. Well, we have AC in the office, but that's it. Um, it's like washing parts is a pain in the ass because I've got to like fill buckets full of simple green and water and like a rinse bucket. But like you said, it's a really good deal. It's fit all the machinery we have right now, no problem. Once we get the kitty out, we'll have even more room. Um, so industrial space is nice, but like we still get like I'll tell people like, oh yeah, I've got a CNC shop, and they're like, oh that's cute, like out of your garage, and I'm like, no, I've got like an actual shop. Like
Yeah.
come by and see my shop, and you'll eat your words. Like what are you talking about? Like not that your shop isn't a real shop, but like like it's just so frustrating when they're like, oh I can see you've got your little pocket NC in your garage, and you think you have a shop that's how they just talk down to me, and I'm like, come on, like no, I've been doing this for what 5 years now. Like no, I kind of know what I'm doing. Why don't you come by and see what you're talking about?
Yeah,
um
I kind of I wouldn't say I went at it with someone in a Facebook group on Haas, but like there was one troll that was like, "Why would you buy that Haas machine?" Or like cuz someone was asking like, "Is a DM2 a good machine?" And I commented, I'm like, "I've made so much money on my DM2. Yes, it is a good machine." Like, but that is totally subject to the work you can get. Like it just yeah.
yeah, yeah, anyway, but I didn't use it. I did not use a realtor. We found it on Craigslist. That's pretty much where I've like all of the other shops that I've looked at and considered moving to were all found on Craigslist. There was another one locally that we were debating trying to swing because it had, I think, 200 amps of three phase and was a little over double the square footage. But low overheads like nothing to joke about. Like it's super super nice. Like my rent and my utilities are nothing. Like it's super easy for me to break even every month. Um, and then I think those are all his questions. Like I don't know really any cons besides like the space itself is not the nicest. Like I would love better insulation. I really like an AC in the entire shop, but I definitely like a newer swamp cooler unit, or a place that like I would want to install. Like we thought about this year installing our own mini split in the shop just to cool it off, 10 degrees or something like that. But it's not really a nice enough place that I want to invest any money there.
Yeah, I'd
Um,
rather stick it out.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like with a few fans going and the swamp cooler going, like it's not terrible. It's like 85 something like that when it's 100 something outside. So it's definitely not super comfortable, especially if you don't have the fans going. Like just having stagnant air sucks. But
You said 85 in your shop?
yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's like what it was today for me. It's been hot in Washington.
yeah. I mean, I think it hit maybe 90 this weekend when it was 110 almost outside.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's definitely worth the money though. That was another one of his questions. It was really easy to find. Like I think I've told this story before, but like we bought our machine before we had a space for it. Because like
Yeah.
we found the deal on the machine and then we were like, oh shoot, we need a place to put it. And so within the course of a week, like I think Brad went to one. Brad went to maybe two places, two or three places, and he just decided on this place. Like he sent me pictures and was like, "Sound good?" And I'm like, "Yep, let's do it." Like it was that quick. Um, so it seems like it kind of comes in waves too. Like I'll look on Craigslist from time to time for commercial real estate with like three phase, and like I like last week I think when Joe asked this question, and there was nothing, but like a month and a half before that there was a ton of them. So yeah, I don't know. I think until you buy a place, you're kind of at the whim of whatever's available, and you just you pick the best of the worst. But then like if you buy a place, you can actually invest in it and make it what you want.
Yeah, of course. All right. Does that answer all his questions he had?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure he'll DM me if not, and we can always bring it back up.
Yeah, yeah. We got one from, is it Merc?
Yeah,
Merq. What's the most expensive or favorite tool you've ever broken, and what caused it? Oh,
you
most.
got anything in mind?
I don't have a probe, so.
I haven't broken a probe, just the tip. I'm okay with
Just
that.
the tip.
Just the tip. Well, I've got one. You can think about yours. Um, we have a digital height setter, like it's similar to the one that you use, but it's a Mitutoyo 50 millionths indicator, like an electronic 50 millionths.
Yeah, I know. I've
And
used those before.
yeah, and so we just built our own frame for it. So instead of 1 thou increments, I think that's on the Edge Technology one, you can really finely set you can pretty much set your tools finer than the accuracy of your Z. So um, we had one in the first generation of the holder, and in the kitty, you for some reason when you're in zero return mode, it still allows you to hit negative on the jog buttons. And one time I was setting off a tap really late at night and was at zero on that thing and put it in zero return after setting the tool offset and hit negative instead of positive and just
Oh,
crumpled uh the what's it called, the shank of the indicator into itself, and
oh
like it just
God.
stuck, and like pushed the tap up into the tool holder a little bit, and like it just like made my stomach sink. Like it was so terrible.
Yeah.
And granted, like I think we had gotten the indicator on eBay for like 100 or $150, and like the replacement was only the same thing on eBay for like $150, but it was so vital to our process that I just felt so terrible, and I just like I was like, oh, I've damaged the machine and blah blah blah, and like
Yeah.
everything ended up being fine on the machine, but like I just felt like such an idiot. And like I said, it was just like so valuable to our process that like not having an indicator in there was really tough, and like setting tools with a piece of paper, a Joe block or whatever sucked.
Trying to think. Mine, I don't know. Like, I've broken a Heimer tip, like, big whoop. Like, I hate breaking tools, like, especially like nice tools. Like, I've broken some half-inch end mills. Like, I've chipped them like a nice chunk out of it, and it's just like that was dumb. Or like, this sounds so dumb, but I had this carbide spot drill that I had since I got the machine, and I loved it. It was always tool 17, and I broke it in the stupidest way. I can't remember what I did, but I just remember I broke it, and I was so mad at myself over a dumb like spot drill. But I was like, this was in my machine for 2 years. Like, come on, like it was a good tool. Like it was always perfect. Come on. So that's all I got. I mean, I've thrown an indicator before. Like that sucked. Luckily, I had a second one. But yeah,
I, knock on wood, have not done that yet.
dude, it
Um,
was so stupid. My cousin was there too, and we both like I was setting off like a Z offset, and I had the indicator on the mount thing, and I don't know what I did. I think I accidentally hit forward, which is like it just turns the spindle to the last known command, and it was like 1200 RPM swing.
oh, yeah, I had a coworker of mine maybe 6 months ago blow up one of my indicators because he was in the older brother at work, and it it really depends on the machine you are, like the behavior of like M19 to lock the spindle. and in the robo drills that he had been used to working on, and like that's what he had been working on the few weeks before then. It just locks it at the nearest dog point. It doesn't rotate it, but on the brother,
It
it does like
goes
a
full run.
full,
Yeah.
yeah, it does a full whip before it locks, and so it just like because I have one of those Edge Technology indicator holders for the
Yeah.
spindle when you're indicating something in, because I can't stand indicalls,
Yeah.
and he would borrow that because he loved it too, and like every time he would borrow it and like say like, oh man, I really got to get one of these, I really got to get one of these, and then finally he whipped my indicator in the wall. I had to buy me a new indicator, and he bought one, surprisingly. I was like, yeah, that would have been cheaper if you just bought one. It's a $60 holder versus a $250 indicator, but whatever.
Oh yeah, that was another thing I was going to ask you. I lost because I went shooting the other day and I brought a set of Allen keys and to adjust some stuff. And I don't know where that Allen key went. I don't know if I left it there or if it's in a bag somewhere, but I know everyone has their own Allen keys and these were like broken in and nice and I loved them. They had the ball ends to them and everything, but do you have, because there's all those fancy like colored ones and stuff. Do you have any of those fancy ones or do you just have like a normal set?
I have got some cheapo set from Amazon. I want to say the brand's like Titan or something.
Okay.
I'm looking it up right now. They're not special, but I have, I don't know, 4 sets of them because they're cheap and they're decent and they haven't broken. And I mean, what else can you ask for?
Oh, I think I
Like
just
I've
found my set here. It's a Tecton.
Oh, maybe that's the one I have. It was whatever. It comes in a 2 pack.
I sent you a
On
link in the thing. I have the metric, which is red.
that's exactly what I have. Okay, so it is Tecton. Yeah, so I've got the red and I've got the gray, and I've got both of those sets at my day job. I've got one at each machine at Proteum. They're $12 a set. I don't know. It's hard to beat them. Like I
And
think
I just loved them. I'm so mad.
they're decent. Like I don't know. I know everybody loves like the Wera or the Weha or, but I don't know. Like for what I like about these two is they're so cheap that like if I've got to grind one down to fit something to
Yeah.
like get a job done, or if I like break one, I'm like, oh whatever, I'll buy a whole new set. Like I don't care.
Yeah,
Whereas
exactly.
if I broke $100 Wera set, I'd be like, this sucks. Like this is the worst day ever.
Wait, that's how much they are?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
I know that they are very proud of their tools. Let's just say that.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. I'm just talking out of my ass. They're like $64 for a set for a 22-piece set, so metric and English.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just more than I want to spend on something that I know that I'm going to lose or I know I'm going to break or have to modify at some point. So to each his own. I understand why people like high end tools. I buy high end tools for certain things, but for this, it just doesn't make sense when like those tech drawn ones are decent enough for me.
Yeah.
Tecton.
That's funny
So
you had that. I thought of that and I thought I'd ask because I know, like I said, Instagram's crazy for Allen keys.
yeah, oh yeah. You can get every color and every shape, and I think if I needed some specialty ones, like I might go one of those high end brands, like if I needed Torx or something like that. But yeah, I don't know, for standard stuff. That's what I have.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Machine Smith, Tucker Smith asked, what are some tricks you guys have picked up to make quoting easier, tooling ordering easier, ordering what you need easier? Is there a database you've created or been supplied? I've got multiple systems at my day job and I'm trying to consolidate information to make it easier for all stakeholders to see and manage.
No, not really.
So quoting wise, a big thing that's always helped me is getting like a price per pound of material, and that way I don't have to wait for material quotes to come back.
Oh
Like
yeah, you had mentioned
aluminum,
that. I like that idea.
yeah. So like an aluminum, I know is realistically, depending on how much I'm buying, between $6 and $10 a pound. Well, even sometimes cheaper than that, but I usually quote it at like $8 a pound if it's only like a onesie twosie, because I know that also marks it up a little bit in my favor for having to go pick it up and all that stuff. So I can just quickly do the calculation, length, width, height times zero point 0.1, which is the pounds per square inch of aluminum,
Really?
and times $8. Yeah. And so then you've got a rough quote, and I can just throw that in my quoting spreadsheet, and I'm off to the races. I don't have to wait. Like I used to wait for material quotes, and it would take me an additional 24 to 48 hours to get a quote back to people. And like now, I can get a quote back within an hour if it's a material that I know the price of.
Yeah.
And then as far as quoting, I have that quoting spreadsheet. I think I've shared it with a few listeners. It's nothing special, but it's good enough. Like you put in your setup times, you put in, or your setup estimates, you put in your material price, any tooling, any outside processing, inspection time, all that stuff, and you put in your shop hourly rate, and it spits out a price per part. And like, it's not my end all be all. Like I definitely don't abide by it every time, but it gets me close at least.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I have spreadsheets, but so much lately, I just ask for target pricing and I just do how many can I make an hour? Okay, I can make 2 an hour and I'm making $50 a part. Okay, I'm making 100 hour. I'm happy with that, and I just kind of go on the fly for a lot of the stuff lately I've been doing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to each his own. As far as tooling ordering, I I don't. I wish I did. I wish I don't know though, because like I don't, because we're a job shop, and because we like I don't go through tooling that often. I'm not doing a whole bunch of steel or titanium or stainless or whatever. Like aluminum tools last for a really long time, so I always make sure that I have two or three of it, all of my common end mills, and then when I go to the drawer for a new one and I'm like, oh, I'm down to one, I just go ahead and order. And I know where I get them from, and I just go and order. And like maybe that's because I'm a small shop. Like it's not like I'm having to count heads and be like, oh, who else needs something from Carbide Card, or who else needs something from Suncoast Tools. It's like I'm the only one ordering, so I just order what I need. Like I'll check in with Brad if I'm buying stuff from MSC, or any other supplier like McMaster. I'll be like, hey, do you need anything? But besides that, I don't have like any barcodes. Like I know Kelvin showed in his stories that he just had put
Yeah,
that barcode program together, which is awesome. And if I had like
production.
a production product line, like that's totally the way I would be going.
Yeah,
What about you?
it's hard, like you said, for job shop stuff, and I know what tools I have on hand. I don't I wish I had, like, an Excel sheet or a Google sheet that showed how many I have so I don't have to, like, sort through them. That could be one lean improvement, "Hey, I have 2 3/16, 3/4 length of cut tools on hand," like, that's a very common tool for me. Like that'd be good to know while I'm sitting up here at my desk, so I don't have to go downstairs and like sift through the end mills and figure out, oh, I have one here and there's one in the machine or whatnot. Like that could be helpful. Um, and just
See, I wish I had that for remnant material, and I wish I had that for taps, because I'm always like, oh, do I have a 3/8 16 or do I have a 3/8 24
yeah.
for tap? It's like, I don't know, because that's like the difference between adding, if it's like a one off part. It's like, well, I'm either going to factor in $20 extra for a tap, or I'm not.
I mean, I've learned for me, at least with taps, I like instantly assume it's going to be $60 because I normally buy at least two. Then you buy the drill to go with it. And then freaking stupid shipping is always like 12 to 15 from MSC or whatever. So like all of a sudden there's $60. Um, and that's just the thing. Like it's just knowing what you have on hand. And I am guilty of not doing that in the best way, but I guess I get it done.
Yeah, it sounds like a good goal for both of us, though. Come up with something that lets us track that kind of stuff a little better,
Yeah.
even if it's just like a Airtable or a Google spreadsheet or something like that.
Yeah, and if it gets down to, zero quantity, here's the part number and a link, go buy it.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. Like, I think there's like a very fine balance, because like at my day job, we have got a system to track inventory, and like you're supposed to scan out every time you take an end mill and blah blah blah. And like on one hand, I understand that because then you're tracking inventory, but on the other hand, it means that like most of the guys don't do it all that often,
Yeah.
or like they don't remember how to do it, and so then they're taking an extra 5 minutes to be like, oh, I scanned that the wrong way. Oh, it deducted it twice. Oh, I got to go back and delete this transaction and redo it. And it's like, oh god, just go back and run parts. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. Let's see. Jonathan F. Rowley asked, if you were both to start over with your businesses, knowing what you know now, would you change anything or do anything different?
Probably, but I don't like thinking about that. I'm at where I'm at, and I gotta move forward.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how we've done it. Like we've maybe I don't know. Like there are like little things that I would do differently,
Yeah.
but like nothing majorly. Like I would be like, oh, I wouldn't have bought that Kitamura and let it sit for a few months. Like,
Definitely
oh,
would have gotten on Instagram sooner, that's for sure.
yeah, I mean, like just little stuff like that. But like, I don't know. I've been pretty happy with how we've run the business. Like, it's definitely not the fastest growing thing. Like, if I went full time now and just bit the bullet and like hoped and prayed that I could bring in enough stuff to support me, I probably would grow faster. But I kind of like the scalable method that we've taken. Like we've just been very conservative about everything, and neither Brad nor I has ever been like super overly stressed with bills or making rent or anything like that. And like I don't know, it's to each his own. I think that there's many ways to grow a business, but I'm like pretty happy with how we've run the company until now.
Yeah, I agree.
Triple Caution Machine Works asked, seeing as it's mid-year ish, how are you both doing in respect to your goals for the year? Have your goals changed due to COVID impact? How close are you? How close am I to going full time, and how close are you to getting a probe or 5 axis mill?
You go first.
I think we're doing pretty well on our goals. Like I've got my meeting this Saturday actually, with my accountant, and we're going to start having them go through our books with us. And I'm going to start having a firmer grasp on my numbers so that I know when I can go full time. But like we're staying steadily busy and like getting busier and busier to the point where I'm running out of time in the week. So I think that's
Yes.
a good sign, right? Like that's how I know that I'm getting close. I don't have like a firm like I am exactly 6.5 months away right now because I don't know my numbers very well. And once I do know my numbers and once I know my break even point and all that stuff, I think that that's going to be you know game changing. Um, but my goals really haven't changed. Like I definitely want to go full time still. We're staying super busy in spite of everything that's been going on. If anything, like I want to go full time and add another new mill as soon as I can and keep kicking ass.
I would say I'd be honest and say that this year has happened so fast and so much has happened that I I kinda lost track, or maybe I didn't have any goals for this year. Cause like, yeah, I know what I did sales-wise last year, and so it's like, if I could do that or better, like, I guess that's a win, but, like, I guess business and life are kinda 2 different things, and since being an entrepreneur, it's kinda merged into one, and it's like, how can I still produce, but, like, have more free time to, like, live life? It sounds like a total 20-year-old thing to say, but, like, that's just how I feel. Cause like, the way I look at it, it's like, I honestly could probably pay someone, for 20 hours a week to mold parts on my manual machine, and I would gladly pay them, and that's something I've been talking to some of my buddies about. It's like, I just I just don't have the time. Like, it sounds so dumb, but I just don't have the time to stand there for the amount of time I need to make these parts. And some would argue, well, maybe you got to change your process on how those parts are made and, outsource or make a production mold that's automated so you don't have to stand there, which are all total possibilities. But with the scale of, I'm not making 10,000, but I'm making 1,000. I have the mold, I have the machine. I'm more than happy to pay someone $20 an hour to make me parts. Like that's why employees are a thing. Um, and I need to take advantage of that. And I think I need to experience, I need to take the time to train someone to have the eye that I have for detail and offload some of this work. Cause like you said, I'm just running out of time. Like it's so dumb to say, but it's just happening.
No, there's only so many hours in the day, and like like you said, you're young. You want to hang out with friends. You want to do fun stuff. Now have dedication to 75 hard like that. Every time I speak, I'm adding or subtracting time from your day
Yeah.
that you can do these things. So like yeah, something's got to give at some point. Like you have to reprioritize, figure out what you're willing to pay somebody for, all that stuff.
Yeah. Eliminate, automate, and delegate.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm realizing, crap, I can't eliminate it. I can't automate it. Oh, I guess I got to delegate it. So
Yep. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Sounds like it's time for Granny to level up.
I was just going to say that.
um. All right. On to Tangent Darts asked, "What's a good way to get started with GD&T classes? Any specific books? Get destroyed asking questions on Practical Machinist." There is a ton of really good resources online. I'm trying to think, like I can't remember the YouTube channel off the top of my head, but there's like a few companies that do uh like tips, video tips on YouTube. And they're really really good. What is it? It's Tech Ease, TEC-EASE. That guy, like their videos, even their newest ones, feel like they're from the 90s. But he's like incredible with GD&T. So like, go watch all his videos, all his little tips and tricks. It'll definitely help. I have a GD&T book that was recommended to me, but now I'm again spacing on the. I want to say that Corgorno is the author, something like that, and they yeah, it's TTC Corgorno, and he wrote a book, GD&T textbook. It's called Geometric Dimensioning and Tolerancing for Mechanical Design, and that's a really good one. I'm actually going through that right now so I can get certified. And like on his website, ttc-cogorno.com, they have a resources as well that it's uh, like a little newsletter kind of thing. And so he's got a little tip. I want to say they're every week, but they haven't done them in a long time. But there's 10 or 20 on there that you can read through. Um, I honestly didn't even know that Practical Machinist was a resource for that stuff, so I've never been on there. I can't tell you what's on there, but I would definitely just start on YouTube and on online. There's like a ton of really good videos. Just look for people who are actually ASME certified, both either a technologist or a senior certification. Senior means that they've been doing something GD&T related for I think 4 or 5 plus years, and then recertified at a senior level, which is a harder test.
yeah.
So just go through that stuff. It's like my first exposure to it was a class at my community college, and it was not good, not great at all. So everything that I've learned has more or less been self study online and through books.
Yeah. Dylan would be the guy to talk to. I just went to school and briefly learned about it.
Yeah, it's because I now program our CMMs. I have more or less been forced to become our GD&T guy as well, and like kind of argue with both our engineering staff and our inspection staff on the right way to inspect stuff. So like my whole tangent 2 or 3 episodes ago talking about simultaneous requirements and all of that was because of an argument that came up at work and something that I had to do a deep dive on. So, yep, that's it.
Nice. Let's see. We have firm work X underscore LTD says, I'm 6 weeks in having my own premise and being a legit company with a 3 axis mill and about to add a CNC lathe. I'm in the UK and I have quite a bit of work coming in despite the COVID stuff going around the world. Good or bad time to start manufacturing business? I can't read what the rest says.
Just as please discuss.
Okay. Um, that's interesting because with Dylan and I both being in the US, it's going to be a little more. I would assume each country is kind of different right now, especially with manufacturing. Um, I
I think
personally have experienced that like a lot of people have been coming to me like pulling stuff from overseas and saying like we need to bring this in house. How can we do this? Which is cool. But it sounds like if you got a lot of work, then if you can afford the capabilities, I would go for it.
yeah, likewise. I think that there's a big onshoring initiative across the world. Like nobody wants what happened early this year to happen again. Like the supply lines clearly show their weaknesses, and no matter where you live, unless it was China itself, like there is going to be an onshoring or reshoring initiative just to try to fix those supply lines. And it might not be everything, but if you've got the work now, and you're going to have your own place, like go for it. I mean, keep your exposure low as long as you can. Like, don't get yourself $500,000 in debt trying to do this. But if you can do it and have a good crack at it, do it for sure.
Yeah, go for it. Let's see.
So Henry Holsters asked, "How do you assess the financial health of your business on a day-to-day basis? The old quick glance at the checking account, or do you have something more involved that includes projections, cash flow, etc.?"
Uh Day-to-day basis honestly doesn't happen. I would say it's more weekly, at least for me. Um, it's hard. I wish I had a system that showed this more, and it compared the previous month to this month. I mean, I do have, Shopify will tell me my monthly sales, and lately it's been at a really all-time high. So it's like, if I can keep hitting that every month, like I'm happy. And then it's kind of just like, okay, is the mill running? Yes or no? Like, okay, that's good or bad, or it's kind of, I don't know. It's weird for me.
Yeah. Well, you do your books by hand too, right?
Yeah.
So that might make it tough. Like that would make it quite a bit of work for you to do that.
Yeah, but I guess it also I have the data, so like how can I use it, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
What about you?
Um, Currently I don't do anything. Like I check, my balances. I check my invoices that need to get paid, all that stuff. But that's one reason that I'm meeting with my accountant this week is like we're gonna have them close our books monthly, and that way I will know exactly where I'm at. A good friend of mine, I've talked about him before. Like we talk once a week, and he actually has his employees do his books for him or like close out the numbers for the business every month. So not only does he have an intimate knowledge of how the business is doing, but everyone who works for him does too.
That's
And like he'll,
cool.
he'll he'll keep like salaries and names out of it and stuff like that, but like he'll give them all of payroll together is this much, and like all of our open books is this much, and blah blah blah. And so like they have, I think, 2 days after the close of the month to turn in their numbers, and that way every single person in the company can balance a balance sheet. Like they all know exactly where the company's at, and it really gives everybody kind of communal ownership over the numbers. So like it's only Brad and I, so that's kind of the plan. Is like you said, delegate the stuff that you can't do. I'm delegating this to somebody who's professional at it, and I want them to close our books monthly and help us reconcile all of our open invoices and stuff like that. And that way, monthly, Brad and I can sit down and be like, here are our numbers. Here's where we at. Here's where we are versus last month. Here's where we are versus last year, and go from there.
Yeah, I would say the only other thing that I do is like I obviously have a business credit card and every month I pay a Visa bill and normally you got to spend money to make money. So like recently I had a really big Visa bill and I'm like, "Oh crap, like that sucks." But then I look around and I'm like, "But I bought this, this, this. I had this many orders this month, so $2,000 of that was just in shipping, which I it's technically not a loss to me. I just have to pay it back." Um and so it's like, you look at all these things and it's just like, okay, if I spend like I don't like giving away too many numbers, but like if I spend like only $1,000 on a credit card, I'm like, okay, what happened? Like, were we not doing anything? Like, what's going on here? Like, there's got to be money going out, and if it's going out, it's definitely coming back in, and hopefully more of it. So, yeah,
Yeah, you can only hope for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know a quick glance at your accounts is definitely not a bad thing. Like it does give you at least a real quick knowledge of where you're at, like how much money you have, how much debt you have. Knowing like what open invoices have yet to be paid helps you out too.
yeah,
I definitely don't draw against future money. Like you definitely don't want to count your chickens before they hatch. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know that I'll ever do, well, not that I won't ever do, but currently I'm not going to be doing projections, but I will know cash flow. I will know my balance sheet. I will know all of that stuff at the end of every month. Well, hopefully pretty soon here.
yeah. And see, that's where it's a little bit different for me. Is like, couple things. One, I can project like the Lego side of things pretty well and accurately because I've been doing it for 5+ years. And it's like, okay, I know December is going to be better than January. That's just a fact. Um, and I know like that's just easier for me. And then for me, you know, I don't know. Looking at my checking account and all that, it's like I feel like I get used to the numbers that are in there. Like, yeah, they go up and down accordingly, but it's like, okay, like all I'm really doing is making sure that like there's money in here. Like that's really it. Like I feel like I should be doing more.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Like after talking to my friend and like hearing how on top of the numbers they are, I'm like, oh man, like that I want that, and like talking to Grimsmo about it, and like after Barry kind of forced them to take ownership of that, like I want that kind of ownership. So I'm really ready for it.
Yeah. I always like whenever someone asks me that like clearly knows more about that type of stuff, like I want to be able to have a good conversation with them and be confident, be like, yes, like BrickTactical is making this percentage off of the Lego side of things and their machining is doing this, like, and we're this profitable. And like, I want to be able to talk that way. And I should be able to, because it's just knowing your business. And I don't know, there's not enough time in the day. Like, and I want there to be.
Time to delegate.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I really really like the person who does my taxes, and she's going to be my account. Well, unless she quotes me something crazy to do it, but I think that she's going to be the one to do our bookkeeping, and like I'm really really looking forward to that because like they specialize in small businesses. There was other options that um, I don't know. There was other options out there like through Zero, which is what I use for accounting. They have web people that can do it, but like I want that human touch of like somebody that I can go down to their office and kind of hash things out and like
Be
be
like,
like,
hey,
all
what's
right,
what's this number again?
right, yeah, exactly. Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old
Yeah.
because as far as this goes, I am. So
It's like, okay,
um,
Dylan, you sold this many lollipops. Okay. Oh, I MSC'd one of those. That's why it's so high.
right. Yeah, exactly. Like she was really, really helpful with our taxes this last year. Like there's a few things that I didn't understand at all. And like I went down there and she's like, oh, okay, here you go. Like this is how it is, blah, blah, blah. And like, so yeah, maybe it's time for you to check out somebody that can help you do your books, or even if it's like quarterly or half, through half the year. Even if you're spending money, then just think of how much easier your taxes will be at the end of the year. That's like how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, two things. One, we are talking funny analogies just there with Dylan buying lollipops from McMaster and MSC, but um
But you can't.
Yeah, I know, right? They'd be unbranded. Um,
Yeah.
um, I got a couple messages. This is totally off topic, but I got a couple messages that people really liked our adaptive roughing and shaving jokes and analogies. I thought that was pretty funny. Um,
Yeah. Jake seemed to like him too. It was
yeah,
great.
I'm telling you that rougher. Oh my god, I had the best shave. Anyways, but, like, freaking what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, so, like, with you doing monthly closing of the books, how does that work? So you go to this accountant that specializes in small businesses, and you say, "Hey, this is what I wanna do." Do they say, "Okay, Dylan, it'll be $100 every month if you wanna do that," or is it like a service, or is it, like, quote by the job?
I think it's going to be like a monthly fee. Like I know if I do it through Zero, it was an X number of dollars per month to have somebody do that for me. And when I emailed her, I asked her to quote it for me, and she was like, "Well, I need you to bring down what did she want? Like she wanted my last bank statement and all of the stuff to log into Zero." And so like we'll go down and log in together and review like what a basic month looks like as far as like average number of transactions and stuff, and then she'll quote me based on that.
Got it. Yeah, let me know if you're willing to share privately what that would cost.
Yeah, I mean, I think through Zero it was like a few $100. It was like 300 or 400 bucks a month, and that was a little high for
That's
me.
yeah,
But I have a feeling that she's probably going to be maybe $100 a month or $150 a month,
okay.
and like that's expensive. But again, to like have that kind of ownership over my business and like what did Kelvin say? Like you're never going to waste money spending money talking to lawyers and accountants.
Yeah.
And I the more I get into this business side of it, the more I agree. Like feeling confident in areas that you're way out of your depth is, I think, part of growing up as a business owner. And like, if people come to me and, let's say 5 years down the road, they want to invest in us, like they're going to want to know like, oh, what's your, average cost of goods sold? What's your monthly break even point? What's your, this and that? And it's like, well, I can get back to you. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a great analogy, I guess, would be if someone came to you and was like, "Dylan, like, asked you a question like why shouldn't you should be able to do everything in your business at least to an extent or at least understand it. Maybe you don't personally do it day to day, but you should know how to or like what the numbers mean. You know, it would be weird if someone came to me and be like, "Peyton, like how do you mold stuff?" And I was like, "I don't know." But like, it'd be different if they were like, "How do you mold stuff?" And be like, "This is how we do it, but I personally don't do it. My employee does it, or something like that." Like you need to, I feel like we're trying to really figure out, because we're entrepreneurs, we're trying to figure out how everything works. And that's just because we just didn't in the first place. Like we need to know those things, but we don't per se have to do them.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like, I understand the numbers. My numbers are starting up to date because like I'm looking right now at my Zero, and I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't reconciled like, I don't know, 10 invoices with their payments yet because I just haven't had time. And so like my balances show way off, and like they show like a bunch of overdue invoices and stuff like that, when really none of that is true. And it's like I want all of that stuff up to date the second day of every month, or like the third day of every month.
Yeah.
And like then I would be able to log in and just go to my balance sheet and like read off numbers and know where everything is. So yeah, well, I'll let you know off air how much I end up spending. My guess is that it's going to be, like I said, I think probably 150 bucks a month or 100 bucks a month, but I really don't know until I have my meeting. So
Yeah. Let me know.
we'll do. All right, and then I think we got one more question from Chris, the pragmatic redneck, or I guess it's a two-parter. Um, Why? So his first one: why is a boring head more accurate, better finish, etc., as opposed to interpolating a hole? Oh, yeah. So we had actually been talking, him and I, over DM about this, because I had been talking about getting a boring head for those parts that I'm working on. And so the reason it's more accurate and better is, well, like the boring head I bought, and most boring heads you can adjust in tenth increments or sub tenth increments. Like the one I bought from Mari Tool, I think is 1 micron or 2 micron, something like that. Um, so I can adjust the diameter by double that, or maybe it might be even a diameter value. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to go back through and look at it. But like you can only comp if you're in English, you can only comp 1/10 on the radius, so 2/10 on the diameter. Um, so like I can comp at minimum half that on the boring head. And then as far as being more accurate or true, it think about it as like you're plunging down in Z. Like that thing is spinning in your spindle. So unless you've got like crazy wobble in your gibs or your linear rails or whatever, it is going to produce more or less a perfect cylinder, or a, much more perfect cylinder than the interpolation, where every single move you make for that interpolation has error in it, the error of the machine positioning to those points along that arc or whatever.
Could an
So
analogy be like if you had a boss, or like if you had to machine the outside of a soda can, like in a mill, you take an end mill and walk around it, and like, or you turn it in a lathe, and it's like, well, the lathe's just going to be more concentric just because of the nature of how it's cut.
right, exactly. Yeah, you're going to have a more cylindrical item because of the way that you're cutting it, and it's the same thing with a boring head. You're If you have deflection, it is even across the entire circle, more or less, all the way down. And so, like, you might end up with a microscopic cone, if anything. Like, if it has more deflection as it goes down, which it probably wouldn't. But your deflection is even across the entire cut, and it's not involving any of the axes when you're doing the cut. So it is as perfect as your spindle runs true. Theoretically, like there's a million little things that can cause oval holes if you're clamping too hard while you're boring and then you release it, or there's a whole other host of things that can go wrong with a boring operation. But starting with a boring head, you will have a more accurate, more on center, more true bore than interpolating it. Plus, it eliminates any like lead in and lead out lines, anything like that.
Boom.
Yep. We do them at work for a whole bunch of parts, and like it's crazy how nice of a hole you can get, and like you can really get them on location too, which is the other fantastic thing. Like you're not worrying about the whole center shifting because of like a lobing, especially like on older machines, like the lobing that you might get from like the wear being off, like on your axes or something like that. So yeah, so like the head I got, I just brought it up. I can adjust 1 micron radially, which is 40 millionths. So I can adjust 80 millionths on the diameter more or less at a time.
Yeah, that's just the way to do it.
Yeah. And then the last question of his was, "What's your favorite beer or flavor of Kool-Aid in the case of those not legal drinking age?" Just kidding. And so, for you, I guess favorite drink or whatever.
So we had talked about this, I think, a couple times ago, where Dylan hates Gatorade or something like that.
I don't hate Gatorade. I'm just indifferent.
Okay, and you just set your toilet paper on a set of calipers or something.
Yeah, I don't care.
um, there's a product by Gatorade made, or it's called Propel. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but like,
Yeah, Propel water.
yeah, I love. You get me a like, I mean, cold, like cold grape Propel. Like, I'll talk to you for 2 hours. I don't even care. Even though I'll drink it in like 10 minutes, but like that's it.
All right, that's fair.
Or any
Um,
lemonade, but yeah.
okay, lemonade too. I'm a big fan of some lemonades out there for sure.
Yeah.
Favorite beer. Um, I'm gonna sound like a total millennial, but like I really
White Claw?
no, 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 no. He said beer, not like a hint of garbage in water. No, I really like hazy IPAs and IPAs. So like there's one produced locally from a company called Dragoon Brewing Company. That's just their Dragoon IPA. And they also have one that's named after a prehistoric crocodile called Sarcosuchus IPA. That's like an imperial IPA that's really good. And then I'm totally blanking on the imperial stout that I really like from them as well. But yeah, I would say like usually when I'm going out to drink, I'll get like an IPA or like a hazy IPA, just because if I'm gonna drink beer, I want to have like fairly strong alcohol content. Like I don't know, I'm not a big light beer
Dylan
person or
likes
anything
it to
like that.
hit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like if I'm
Dylan's
gonna
like,
drink, I'm gonna
what's the
drink.
point? Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
I'm actually kind of
yeah,
excited because if IMTS gets pushed to next year, your boy's gonna be 21, and I can actually like come sip and not like drink ice water.
yes, yes. We can only hope that.
Dylan's gonna be like going crazy.
No, I think last IMTS I didn't get too wasted.
No, crazy
Actually,
with me.
oh yeah, we totally. Actually, the last IMTS, because I that was my second one, and so I was like, oh, I've seen a lot of this stuff. Like I'm here for the fun, and also I was there for free since I won the cam challenge, and so I think the second or third day I was there, I was like, I'm gonna see how much free beer I can drink
Yeah.
while I'm on the floor, and like both Brad and I got fairly tipsy at the show, and then it was like. Yeah, it was a good time, and then I think I met up with I don't know if it was that night or one of the previous nights, but I met up with Sean from Rocky's Wire EDM, actually going to Eric's
I was
meetup.
about to say, I remember you saying,
Yeah, but then so he posted like to go to this bar, and Sean and I both went, and then it turned out that like we had missed everybody by 2 minutes, and that place wasn't serving food. And so like him and I had like a few drinks waiting for everybody, and we're like, well, what the hell's going on? And then we checked his story, and it was like some other bar down the street. And so we walked down there, and that's when like it was hilarious. Everybody was drinking and having fun, and it was all the MMM USA guys and Alfred from AB Tools and Donnie who used to work at GWS, and it was a good time. But yeah, I'm hoping we'll have to make something happen next year, regardless of if it's IMCS or what, and we'll
a
all
within
go out.
tolerance meetup.
Yeah, there you go.
That would be kind of crazy. I wonder who would come.
Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to pick something good, some good city or something like that. Because
That could
like,
be really interesting.
yeah, it'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. Oh, real quick before we wrap up, what have you been researching this week?
I've been thinking about this because I never think about this question. So I think it was the last time we talked, me and you, is I mentioned I really want to, I think I did want to learn how to skateboard and then learn to play
Mhm.
the piano.
Yeah.
And so I got a skateboard and I've been skating and I'm actually getting confident. It was good because I went to like my local skate park and you're always worried like, oh crap, like I don't know anything. Like I'm scared to step on this thing, right? And these guys are doing like these crazy tricks that like I'm gonna spend 10 years trying to figure out or whatever. And luckily I met two really cool guys. They were my age. One of them has been skating for like 10 years. The other was like a couple years. And he was actually really good at teaching me things, but also pushing me. And he knew I was a beginner. I like literally showed up and I'm like, guys, like the receipt for this skateboard's in my pocket. Like I literally just bought this. And like they're like, all right. They're like, all right, let's practice this. And I'm like, okay, like I'm not doing well at this, but we're practicing it. And then he's like, all right, let's go off this curb over here. I'm like, you want me to go off that curb? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, dude, like, what part of like I just bought this 2 hours ago do you not understand? And he's like, no, you got this. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I was going off a curb and I was like, this is sick. And then he's like, all right, let's go stand up on this park bench. And I'm like, why are we standing on this park bench? He's like, well, we're going to jump off it and land on your board. And I'm like, bro, like, and I was doing it. And I was like, this is insane. Like, and then we were like, all right, let's go back to the skate park. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to teach you to go off a ramp. And I'm like, dude, you're killing me here. And I was
Wow.
going off these little ramps and I was like, this is pretty sick. Like, yeah, I literally fell straight on my ass like once and I like felt it good. But like, other than that, like, I was very surprised at like 3 hours of just messing around and having a good time. Like, it was really eye opening in that sense.
That's awesome, man. I'm pumped to hear that.
Yeah, and honestly, and this is just the total entrepreneur in me, and the people that know me like this, but, like, I got on that board, and for, like, 3 hours, or even just the hour I was going around a parking lot by myself, but that whole day of me being on that board, I was not thinking about machining. I was not thinking about Lego. I was not thinking about work. I was thinking about, I know nothing about this skill and I want to try to get good at it, or at least proficient at it, and not hurting myself. That's all I was thinking about. And that was so relaxing for me, like so mind numbingly awesome.
That's badass, man. I'm super super happy to hear that.
Yeah. So now I just need to, luckily these guys are like me and we'll go skating at like 2 in the morning. So luckily that's a thing. But yeah, I need to,
Oh my
yeah.
god, no wonder you're up so late.
Yeah, dude, I'm doing all the things. But yeah, I'm pumped about that. So I guess I wouldn't be researching that, but I've just been like experimenting and learning with that. So it's been fun.
No, I think that counts for sure.
Yeah.
That's that's what's up.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I was going back through my history of like things I've been looking up, and one that actually was kind of a cool read. Greg, our last guest, posted it on the Discord, I think, and it's called "A Periodic Table of Form: The Secret Language of Surface and Meaning in Product Design," and it like talks about different curves both in nature and in design. So I think that a lot of machinists hear things like C2 or G2 curvature, and like they're like, I don't know what the hell that means, but it looks like there's going to be a lot of ball milling on this part.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it goes into like the different kinds of continuity between surfaces. So like whether it's like a hard edge or tangential continuity, which is like, just a fillet, like a standard fillet, or curvature continuity, which is like C2 or G2, which is where you can't tell, like with a tangent fillet, you can tell where the surfaces go into the fillet,
Like
like there's
start and stop.
yeah, like there's a line there where that radius starts.
Yeah.
But with curvature continuity, there is no line. So like it just slowly becomes a curve and then slowly becomes another surface.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
like the article goes into what those mean and like how parts look different because of it and how they make you feel different because of it. And it kind of shows like the lizard, not the lizard, sorry, there was a thing about lizards in the article. It shows the zebra stripes that you can do in Fusion when you're looking at surfaces, and like tells you what those actually mean and like how you can use them to see what the kind of continuity is in your surfaces. So it's really cool actually. Like it some of it was like a little more design stuff than I really care about, but a lot of it was like, oh man, I now understand why certain things are designed certain ways, maybe a little better.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
it's on core77.com, and again, it's a periodic table of form. I'm sure if you just Google that, it'll pop up. So it's worth if you're into design, I think it's worth reading through.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. So again, everybody, next week is just going to be Peyton and I again. But this time you'll be able to see our ugly mugs, regardless of what Peyton says. And uh,
Fly.
go ahead and send us questions this week. Anything you want us to cover or maybe show off. I'll be on my laptop and you'll be on your computer, but maybe I can kind of walk people around the shop while I'm talking about things that are happening in the shop. Or at least you'll be able to see my machines behind me and see what's going on. So should be a fun episode. Again, we're gonna have a little bit of a giveaway. We'll release all the rules and stuff in next week's podcast. As always, thanks for submitting all your questions. Thanks for commenting, subscribing, following us on Instagram, all that stuff. And we'll look forward to talking to you guys next week for our year anniversary podcast.
I just thought of another great way we could do a contest. So we're going to talk about that. You guys won't get to hear it, but all I'm saying is first person to send me or Dylan a message of a meme of me riding a skateboard to my HFO to pick up a probe. I might send you something. So, but I got to look fly. So make me look fly. Dog. All right.
All right.
Later.
Later.